That's right.
Intergovernmental Affairs meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey.
Present.
Alderman VOLLMER. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderman Bosley.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Chairman Moore.
Here.
Alderman VOLLMER. Alderwoman Ingracia. 5 present. You have quorum.
Thank you. We are here for Board Bill number 31. Been going on for quite some time. And I know I put you on notice last time that we should have an agreement. And in the words of Rodney King, can we all get along? This is an amazing bill that's taken so long. And it's a help for the people in the community that needs this clean energy and start us on our way to something different in this city. I'm not gonna throw it out. We're not gonna vote on it today. I said the last time we don't have an agreement, but I don't want it to be one-sided. I do not want this to be one-sided, that one group hold up and we don't have an agreement.
Did you want it closed? Because it's hot in here.
It don't matter.
Can you leave it open, please? Thank you.
Alderwoman Boyd,
She got another meeting going. She got public safety.
We got 2 of them at the same time.
that's amazing. But anyway, I'm gonna ask the members of the committee to give me what their opinion is on this bill before we speak with have the sponsor to speak. Alderman Rhodey, what do you think about this?
Mr. Chairman, I thought you're kind of on the right path by trying to get an agreement before we come in. I guess I've heard a little bit about the secondhand. I missed the last meeting. I apologize. I feel, I guess I sponsored the original legislation some years ago, a few years ago. I didn't even realize it. Somebody brought it to my attention. But the idea of having a monopoly, I don't think is particularly a good thing. I think we've kind of gotten ourselves in an awkward situation that we, agreed to do that. I think when you send out an RFP, there's at least somewhat of a moral commitment to honor that. And I think the company that responded probably expended a fair amount of resources to get some of the things in place. The thing that really makes me feel more uncomfortable than anything, though, is that the implied endorsement of the city of St. Louis for these programs, because we're permitting them to collect the bills on their taxes, and it looks as if we're endorsing these programs, and these programs are, they might well do some really good things, but at the same time, there is a real opportunity for abuse. And all we have to do is take a look at the past mortgage market meltdown in 2007 and 8 to see what can happen. And this is largely an unregulated industry. I guess the Senate is starting to regulate it, and or is looking at maybe doing it, the U.S. Senate, in which case I'd feel a lot better about it if that was regulated, but at this point, it's not regulated, and I would feel very uncomfortable without some sort of, I had heard that there was a compromise where a city representative might be on the board from the existing entity has a board that's made up predominantly of outstate people. I can't even remember the city that was the original sponsor of this that we're kind of tagging on to here. But I felt a lot more comfortable then. I just could envision a time when people start having their homes foreclosed on or something to that effect, and then we end up, getting tax bills sent out, and, we have no ability to kind of, rein this thing in. There's nobody for us to call, no way to shut it down, and so that would be my primary concern with admitting a second entity at this time.
Can I answer? Just
Yes, go ahead.
as part of the agreement, one of the things is that they will put a permanent member, or it cannot be enacted. So they have to put a permanent member on the board from St. Louis City County. And,
I thought it said St. Louis City or Kansas City is what was.
I think,
Mhm.
you know,
It's-
David better,
Isn't that what you-
better answer.
Mhm.
I know that, so, but I do believe that, but you might quiz them, maybe it is St. Louis. I
It's
thought it was
St. Louis City.
County.
Christina wrote the amendment because we talked about it. It's Kansas City or St. Louis.
It's whatever amendment we were
One, so
saying
that we
the
would have a
other
big
day.
city representative on there.
That's what we were saying the other day, that they agreed to, but, anyway, I'm sorry.
Okay, are you finished?
Yes.
Yes, I'm finished with my comments, thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Gracia,
I don't have any comments at this time.
no comments at this time. Alderman Bosley,
Is that really?
Tyrus, I'm sorry.
Take that R out
There we
also.
go.
Can it be Tyus?
Tyus.
Thank you very much,
Tyrus.
appreciate it. So I don't know if you wrote, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right if I inquire of the Alderman from the
Sure.
sixth. Did you put on the amendment about that the Missouri Clean Energy District shall deliver to the city council a will-level legal opinion from qualified Missouri law firm? Is
I
that
did.
your, okay, and so I guess my question, so I finally did sit down and read this and try to put all the pieces together. Why would we have to have a different law firm than the city councilor give an opinion? What was the
That was
thinking behind that?
required of the current provider that the RFP was awarded to. So it was basically anything that's listed as an amend, or on the committee substitute, was to make both programs have similar requirements.
But I thought the reason why the prior one had to do it was because we weren't sure about if this was legal, and we were just trying, which still don't understand why we have a city councilor's office with, 38 city councilors, and then we have to always go outside and pay people to do something more that we should be able to do, and also let outside interests write our bills, and then in 26 years, we suffer from that when that
Sure,
happens.
yeah, and I don't
okay?
have a problem having a discussion with
Right.
respect to.
I just didn't
to that
understand
piece.
why we were requiring that, okay? And the next, so now I know, so whatever's in here, you wanted them to just do the same thing so that they're not really piggybacking on the expenses that they had to do? Is that what your thinking behind that is? Since the first company had to expend so much money?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
I mean, that's why I said if that is definitely up for discussion, and I don't know what the chairman's prerogative is today, but it's my understanding that since I thought we had mostly an agreement between the parties on this, there have been some subsequent conversations that I have not been included in, so.
And I could explain that one if you'd let me. And just real quickly, so what happened, Sharon, is everything that I believe we talked about and agreed on got put in place. But then I got both sides, one side telling me, well, yeah, but not. And the other side telling me, well, yeah, but we did. And so my head was about to explode. I like your idea, and that's after conversation with the chairman, I want to take the bill, send it to the city councilor's office, make sure that they're fair and equal, and that we're doing the right thing. Because at this point, you're an attorney, I'm not, but it's gotten way beyond me. So, you know, I want to do what's right. I want to do what's right, and I want to be able to protect the people in the city. And I don't want my name on a bill that could backfire or, you know. So all I want to do is the right thing. So this does mess it up a little bit. In my opinion, we've done, you know, the other group's done their due diligence. And more than likely, if we took a vote, it would probably pass. But I don't want to pass legislation unless I know it's the proper thing to do. So I asked the chairman, he said, Joe, why would you not do it? You got the votes. I said, because I want to do the right thing, and it's going to have my name on it, and you know me.
It's
Mm-hmm.
your legislation anyway, so are you
Well,
the
I know,
primary
but I
sponsor?
res-
You're the primary sponsor, so you
I
can pull it
understand,
anyway.
but I respect the chairman, and
Right.
so, just so you know, so I'm just trying to make it
You don't have to,
fair and equal on both
you're
sides.
explaining too much to me. You're the
Okay.
primary sponsor.
I
You have the right to pull it anyway.
But
So
I want everybody to know what I'm doing.
I understand,
And
and
I
I like
agree with-
that you're being
I
careful.
agree with your city council. Why go outside the city?
My other thing is, and this is, I want to see our original RFP that we put out for the city. I want to see that. I would like to see a copy of that. Because I want to see if we in any way indicated or said in the RFP that we were giving them something exclusive. I mean, some RFPs are only for that person, and other ones are, it'd be multiple. So I would like to have a copy. Who's our city council in here today? No city council in here today, okay. But I'll ask if I can get the original RFP from when we set up the one that Otis and Company. 'Cause I want to read that to see what that says. I have no further comments. I'll read that.
Alderman Bosley.
Morning. I expressed concerns with Alderman Rhodey about the actual board. I also had concern with the board, knowing that there are two separate ones. There's an advisory board, and then you also have the permanent board. With that being said, I think it's extremely important that we have representation from the city as a whole. I don't think it should be an if and, or if,
What's
you
that?
know, a Kansas City representative or a St. Louis representative.
Well,
And I also think there needs to be somebody that represents the north side in particular, because like Alderman Rhodey said, at some point in time, you can see in the future could be issues with people having their homes foreclosed in. I have a population of the people in my neighborhood, the median income is $18,000. So it's important to me that we have people who understand why people can get behind in particular bills or have certain circumstances when it comes down to involving themselves in
and so,
utilizing
this
this
program, this program is set up in a way that you have to qualify. And what was going on back, what Alderman Rhodey's talking about, you could have went in with real poor credit and they were still making loans. And there was all the junk bond stuff, and a lot of that was, you know, loans that people should have never got the loan. Would you agree? I mean, they didn't just make, they were making loans.
Yeah, Joe, I don't
but if
mean
you-
to,
if-
I don't
but
wanna
but if you-
publicly contradict you, but those are all, you know, somebody has to qualify, those are being qualified all by the private sector. There are, to my understanding, no public sector, you know,
So I'm just saying, there's safeguards in here, and you have to qualify for the loans. You can't just go out, if you have a low credit score, they're not gonna make the loan.
I understand that. I'm speaking after the loan. After everything is secured, once again, I would like to have representation from people who
Then Alderman Bosley
that
finished.
normally don't have representation. So what I'm saying is specifically, every part of town has its own challenges. Every part of town has its own challenges. I'm not saying that my challenges won't have the same effect that your ward have. We can very easily have the same constituents with the same issues. But I know what my ward's issue is, and I want to make sure that the people in that area are protected, whether they can qualify for the program or not. You know, it's important that we have somebody on the actual permanent board who can help speak for underprivileged individuals, because everybody can benefit from the program. And I think that is a good thing as far as it not being a monopoly. It gives people the opportunity to choose. And, you know, with that choice, I think you have to have options, I think, on the board for people who actually can talk to all walks of life.
And I don't disagree.
Mr. Chairman, could I clarify something for the sponsor? I might be wrong, but the last time, you know, this last session when this was brought up, in the mortgage industry, you have to be licensed to go ahead and create a loan. You have to, you are subject to all kinds of truth in lending laws that are national laws that are, you know, right, you have to either be registered at the national level or the state level. You have to be licensed, and you have, you are subject to all kinds of various requirements. These requirements that are in place for these types of things are not regulated
I
at that
understand,
level
but
at
you,
all, from my understanding.
but you were the sponsor of the bill that already put one program in place that's doing exactly what you're saying
Right,
shouldn't
the
be done.
difference is that, and I'm not wild, you know, the difference is that's overseen by a board of St. Louis, you know, that's controlled by St. Louis City.
But it's
so
still, the same.
They can potentially have the same problems,
Right,
absolutely.
there's no difference that if you don't pay under the program that's there now, it can trigger and will trigger a,
Yeah.
a lien against your house. I mean, and that's what the program that exists now.
That's
And-
exactly the same.
And my argument at the beginning of this, was you were seeing nothing moving forward in a year and a half, as far as private sector. And now that there's competition stepping up for whatever reason, maybe it's just coincidence, but now they're starting to step up to that. And you would have to agree, or I think anybody would have to agree, that competition,
Is
whether
absolutely
it's
right.
horrible competition, and you got multiple
Right,
people
I'm
doing horrible
not
things.
disagreeing with any of
I-
that, Joe. All I'm saying is just,
No, I-
let's not mislead. This
Right,
is
but-
not regulated. There are
No,
this,
no.
I don't believe is subject to truth in lending or any of
Right,
the other
nor
federal.
is the program that exists now.
Nor does the other program. I'm
So-
just
Do
saying.
this one right then.
What's
No,
that? There's,
So
you-
let's
but
do this
but you
one
can't,
over
you gotta
here,
be,
then.
you gotta match up with what's there, or do away with the other one altogether.
Yeah.
Because if it's wrong, then we should actually eliminate this program altogether in the city. But if
Joe,
we're
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that these are not federal regulate,
I
these
get
are,
it.
this
No,
is
I
not
get it.
a regulated
They-
industry. And
I
to
get
some
it.
extent, their underwriting guidelines are their own underwriting guidelines.
I understand that. I understand that the group that's in there now and the group that wants to come in fall under that same group, in a sense. And I've done the background on it, and I agree. I don't see myself getting in either program, but if you're gonna have one, you might as well have a dozen. Because one, you start to eliminate, if there's not competition, my argument has always been, why would they want to mess around with the little home air conditioner loans for $4,000 when they can have companies getting million-dollar loans where they're making a lot more money? If I came to you and said, hey, Joe, I want to invest $300 in some stocks, and I want you to help me. And then there's another guy comes along, Joe, our company wants to invest $100 million. Are you gonna really bother with me when when you're out there trying to get real money? But if there's competition out there, you're gonna take a little this, a little that, until you can get, I mean, that's just my argument, Joe. I agree with you. I don't think you would ever see me getting a PACE loan or going to a predatory lender, but if you got one, you need two, and you can't have one doing something different than the other. Now, I agree that we should have a board member from the city. I wouldn't even disagree if you wanted that board member to be a minority, and we put that in there. That's up to their board to make that decision about the permanent member. We can put in the bill that it can't be enacted unless they do that. That's what we're here about. That's what we were talking about last week. That was a lot of what Christine had sent over, So,
Yeah, but it isn't
we're
there,
here
though.
kind of just trying to discuss, and then again, and I know I'm ahead of where I'm supposed to be on this, but the other thing is I want to send it up to the city attorney to make sure that whatever one's doing, the other one's doing. That one doesn't have an advantage over the other. That, whether you think they're the best thing on the planet or the worst thing on the planet, that at least we're operating, because when Alderman Rhodey says the city of St. Louis is endorsing this, we've already done it. We did that a year ago with the program that's in place now. So the city of St. Louis has already said that we're endorsing these kind of programs. Now, the question is, are we endorsing it for one, and we just keep it that way? Or do we bring on whoever, and I'll sponsor if a dozen companies step up. As long as they meet some standards. The other thing, when it goes to the city attorney's office, the group that's in place may not like some of the stuff the city attorney, because we may have to come back and rethink what we have in place. Maybe there's some stuff that we missed in place. I don't know if we could change it. But there's a lot of stuff that the one group saying, we have all this stuff in place with the Consumer Protection Agency. They don't. Maybe we look at everything. That's why my head was about to explode. It's way beyond me. I wanna do the right thing by the
Alderman Vaccaro, we
people.
won't let your head explode. Don't give us another-
So
We don't want you to blow your stack.
no, and, you know, yes, I'm sorry.
Alderwoman Tyus.
See, I know he's the chair, I'm not gonna get in
I'm
trouble. I have a further request. I want a list of the board members for both, the current thing that we have here and the proposed. Also,
Did you get a first request?
okay, I also want, I think we ought to do a review of what's been going on. I want a list of how many, loans have been made by this current
So forth.
and by the people who proposed to do this. I want to be able to compare. So I think that this is a time while they're doing that we compare what's going on, you know. It's been a
Okay.
year's time, so we can kind of see. I will kind of disagree a little bit. If you've made a mistake, I don't think you keep making more mistakes.
I understand,
think,
so we may have to
wait,
go
let me
correct.
just finish. I listened to you all the way. So I think that you pull back from the one you made the mistake from. If you're finding out that that's not working the way it's supposed to, or we have a problem, then we don't push another one. We say, we made a mistake, and we don't do that enough here at this board. Okay, so I don't think I'm right now on your side.
I know.
I don't like oligopolies and monopolies at all. So you don't have
No,
to.
I know,
Wait,
I know.
just let me finish. But I do want to just say, if it's not working right, this is our time to look at that, and maybe we don't do this one, and we find a way to get rid of the other one. Okay.
And I'm with you on
Okay.
that. If
Okay.
it's okay, Mr. Chairman, because I do have that jail bill, and I know you're gonna hear more testimony, I may have to run across.
I want you to have the final word.
Well, can I kind of do it now?
But I want to let Alderman Bowser speak.
After Alderman Bowser. yeah.
Real quick, you did say that it would not be a problem to add that.
Not at all.
Okay, so I definitely would like to see that added.
Or you get with the various subcommittees and get that in,
Right.
get
And-
the
and-
substitute
and-
in.
So that's something you want to tell Dave Sweeney and Jeff Rainford. They basically are representing the two different sides.
Okay.
So, in whatever we agree to as a board, which I've already explained, that if they take this to their committee and their committee says, well, we don't want to do that, we'll put the language in that will say, this can only be enacted if. So then it goes to their board, and it's up to their board to make that decision if they want to see this or not.
Well, that certainly, in my opinion, needs to be a minority on the board, on the
Wow.
permanent board.
And there's one, in Kansas City, there's already one already. And he was here at the last go.
Do you have
I'm
anything?
not, so it's being written.
Okay, Joe, what do you want to?
Well,
Can I ask
Rhodey.
One quick question for clarification. It says a resident of the city of St. Louis or Kansas City. Is that, do we know how that resident's chosen? Is that appointed by the mayor or?
It's their board.
Every year, I send a letter to the city clerks of each member municipality inviting submission of nominees for an open board seat. Those come in, they are turned over to a nominating committee, which is composed of one member of the board and 4 members from the advisory committee or council. They review the nominees with the eye towards assuring that they're going to select two candidates. And in selecting that, they're looking at geographic diversity, at professional skills and qualifications. And those 2 candidates are placed on the ballot that goes to the advisory council members. They vote. As a practical matter, I can tell you that typically somewhere between 12 and 16 council members actually cast votes. A lot of them don't, just for one reason or another, but that's how they're elected. You all met Mr. Benton last Thursday. At that election, it was Mr. Benton and a gentleman from Nixa. The votes were very close. Mr. Benton won, and I might point out, and this is the thing where I get a little nervous. they were elected primarily by the smaller community representatives. I'd hate to see us do something that would create an urban-rural divide, which right now does not exist. And I'd hate to see that happen because I think that could lead to problems.
Well, what I would say, in my, just, you know, and you may disagree and whatnot, but if you're gonna have a permanent minority member on from the city of St. Louis, that this committee should, because you say you take the recommendations from the council, the city council.
That's right.
So if you're gonna have a permanent member from this board on there, then this committee should pick, and we can put
Who's
it in
working
there.
with this, with the,
But we would,
both
what I'm suggesting is that this committee would pick the 2 or 3 people that we want to send up. And if they don't pick they gotta pick one of the 2 or 3 we send up, because if we don't, they can't enact it in the city, because again, we're saying that it has to be a permanent member on it from the city. Now, they may not like that, but if we put in there that this board is the one that picks them, we could, you know, argue against and fight out in this room who we think we should send up for to sit on, to represent the city of St. Louis.
Alderman Vaccaro, what do you want to do with this bill?
Well, because of everything, and a couple things that I would like to add, and I would like whoever to talk to Dave and Jeff. It's kind of like, anyway, I want to send this, I want to hold it till September, till we come back. I want to send it to the city attorney's office. I want them to look at what's in place, listen to what Alderwoman Tyus had to say as far as what we can do and can't do with what exists. But I want to make sure that, one, we don't end up with a monopoly, that we have fair and equitable on both sides. And I'm going to go with whatever changes and recommendations that the city attorney, you know, has to offer, and their attorneys can argue with the city attorney. But I'm going to ask for the city's attorney to have a recommendation to come down here by the time we come back in September, so that we can vote this out. Because even if I can get it out of this committee, it's just gonna be a big fight on the floor. I'd like this, I honestly believe in competition, but I would ask and appreciate if we hold the bill and let me send it to the city attorney to review it.
Okay, we have a couple of people pro and a con. John
Is it okay,
Malowski.
Mr. Chairman, if I go across the lake?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. I have my jail bill over there, which I wanna,
we'll hold your bill until we hear back from you.
thank you so much. I'll be back over.
Okay. John,
Hi, Alderman Moore, committee members, appreciate your time this morning. We believe the resolution, after talking with council, does everything in fact that is asked for and allowed under Missouri law. What we would ask verbally is that the district requests the ability to view the executed energy equity funding agreement with the city registrar's office, including the associated amendments, exhibits, and attachments, as well as the manual and the scope of services. Just referencing Shamari Ben, who represents the city of Kansas City. He was here with us last week, MSED board member representing the city of Kansas City. He wanted me to say a few things. The district is a statewide political subdivision with all member communities represented, specifically on the district's advisory council. Just to the comments made, the Board of Aldermen could add language to appoint a St. Louis minority resident from North City as their advisory council appointee. The Missouri Clean Energy District has a history and a track record of looking out for all its member communities. The district is committed to geographic diversity as stated in its bylaws, and clear evidence of new board members being elected after both the city of KC and city of Springfield joined the district. Since the district's founding in 2011, over 6 years ago, there has not been any instance of any of the 86 member communities having issues with being underrepresented. The track record is fair and equal. As an example of urban results, actual activity in the city of Kansas City has been very positive for the community. Demand over the past 9 months has resulted in over 900 applications, over 425 completed energy efficient or renewable energy projects, improving the local housing stock by over $4 million. That's a great success, helping make the community more energy efficient. Estimated that the creation of more than 30 jobs and an economic impact over 6 million to date, helping homeowners save 15 million kilowatts of energy and reducing emissions by 10,000 tons. The board is excited to serve the city of St. Louis and bring the same benefits we are delivering to all member communities in Missouri. So that's just from Shamari. From my perspective, we continue seeing great results throughout Missouri. The Missouri Clean Energy District has been vetted by 86 member communities in Missouri. Most recently, the city of Columbia, where the city council voted unanimously to join the Missouri Clean Energy District, as well as the other statewide district. They joined both statewide districts, and specifically included consumer protections in their ordinance, similar to Board Bill 31 that points to the consumer protection policy that has been adopted by the Missouri Clean Energy District, and which we would like to see all PACE programs use as a foundation for consumer protections, as we believe our program is leading the PACE industry with residential consumer safeguards, which includes strong underwriting criteria that will provide comfort to you, the city, and the collector of revenue, as evidenced by our strong payment track record of 99%. These underwriting criteria have been influenced by the Federal Department of Energy, as well as national stakeholders, where there's ongoing federal discussion regarding how it relates to TILA. In addition, there have been no issues in any district member community where PACE financing is being offered today.
Okay.
Just a question for the committee. Have you seen the consumer protections adopted by Set the Pace, which I think Alderwoman Tyus has asked? We will bring the city transparency with data, including a real-time app and web portal for the city to view results when they want to see them, real-time. In Missouri, we have helped create 75 new clean energy jobs since last year, providing another economic development tool for those who want to maintain, upgrade, and preserve the city's housing and building stock. Our investment in the state has been proven by our model of success so far, and after 1 year of building the foundation in the city of St. Louis, we are hoping to provide another PACE option for its residents. We also have had positive conversations with the Comptroller's office and want to reiterate that we look forward to continue exploring ways we can work together with all PACE stakeholders to advance the benefits of PACE in the city. We'd like to celebrate our actual results in the St. Louis metro area, as well as Missouri, with both residential and commercial projects, which now include over 900 projects completed in Missouri, improving the local housing stock by over 9 million and the commercial stock by over 3 million, making these member communities more energy efficient and empowering homeowners to lower their utility bills. St. Louis Metro has already completed more than 150 projects, strong demand given that the city is not yet even a member. In summary, PACE is a voluntary program. It is not an essential city service. It is discretionary in an effort to make the community more energy efficient. As results have shown in other cities that have multiple options for their residents, more PACE options in the city will help the city achieve these goals. Thank you for your time.
Is that something just for you, or could we see that? Is that, if you got things on there that you don't want me to see, that's okay.
I can send you a clean version.
Okay, all right. I
You
took
can give
notes.
us copies of that?
He said he'll
Sure.
send us a clean version.
Okay. Do that, okay. Thank you, John. Brad Ketcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Brad Ketcher. I'm here on behalf of Rockwood Asset Management, a member of the administrative team for the City Set the Pace program. And I think I'll be very brief here. I think what I'd like to point out is that the Set the Pace program, which is the city's homegrown PACE program, city residents serving on the board, put together in cooperation with the SLDC through a bidding process. The program components being worked through with the city councilor's office. It's really your homegrown program. A real hallmark of that has been managing and minimizing the risk of the legal risk for the city itself, and SLDC and the other agents and other participants in the program. With this particular bill, it's been brought to you as a no risk, no liability proposition for the city. And so what we've done is really just suggest some sort of common sense things to manage risk and make sure that's the case. Things like a strong indemnification from this board to the city, a covenant not to sue, that they'll agree that we're not going to sue the city, a legal opinion, a strong legal opinion about their authority of their board, the ability of St. Louis City to join that board, a requirement that they register as a political subdivision with the Ethics Commission and the State Auditor's Office, as we believe is required by law. And to date, so far, those things, they've sort of balked at those things. And I think that's sort of telling and disappointing. With all that said, though, we do appreciate the bill being sent to the City Councilor's office. We think that City Councilor's office is a place that looks out for the city's legal interests, its liability risks, and we think that's an appropriate step and we welcome that. So with that said, that's my testimony today.
Any questions?
Um,
Alderman Rhodes.
Can you explain why no loans have been done yet in the city?
Well, the residential program has just gotten off the ground. Tom Applebaum's here with the administrator. He maybe could speak to that more directly. I know there's applications that have been taken. Perhaps by now there's been some residential programs, and there's certainly been commercial activity.
Yeah, there's been, several loans have been approved so far. They're in the process of being completed right now. So the program is up and running, but we wanted to make sure that the process was properly vetted, that it's running smoothly with the collector's office, the assessor's office.
Right, and there were, you know, as far as consumer safeguards, there was a substantial array of consumer safeguards put in place that the PACE board here locally approved. And so going through that process has taken a little time, but applications are being taken.
Would your company have an objection 6 months from now or something like that, admitting a second company to be overseen by the SLDC board?
I think with the provisions we've suggested as contingencies for the.
Sure. Forgive me if I'm kind of wrong,
Right.
misunderstanding this. My understanding is we have a board over at SLDC
Right.
that oversees what you all are doing. Would you have a problem if that board admitted a second company?
I think if they have an RFP process and that's the conclusion they come to, I think we'd certainly be open to that. I would remind this committee that the current administrators have, you know, they bid on the RFP, as did these folks, and they lost that RFP process. They've invested substantial sums of money in reliance on that RFP. And I think as long as they're able to recover their investment, I don't think they're opposed to having a second RFP process.
Well, I guess my question is that one alternative would be, you know, that we have two separate companies that are being overseen by a locally based board, SLDC or their appointees, or we have one company that's overseen by SLDC board and a second company operating in the city that's overseen by a
Right.
board that's not St. Louis City centric. And, you know, my question to you is would you be amenable for a second company to be admitted and overseen by the SLDC board?
I think that would be through a competitive bid process, I think I think my client would be open to that, with the caveat that they are interested in recovering their investment that they've invested based on the city's RFP process.
Wait, Joe. Alderwoman Tyus.
who is on your board?
Tom, you may be able to speak to that more directly as far as the members. I could rattle off some of them, but you may have a better, more perfect sense of that.
It's Pack Justice with Ameren, Sig Colton with Laclede, Emily Watson with USGBC, Shelby Watson.
David's not in the essay.
Yeah. Shelby Watson's on the board, and Otis Williams. And then Catherine Werner's not on the board, but she's kind of has an advisory capacity with regards to the sustainability office.
So Ameren, Laclede, who did you say were USB?
USGBC, US
Mhm.
Green Building,
I'm sorry.
US Green Building.
Okay, who is that?
Emily
Is it Watson or is it?
Watson.
Watson?
We can maybe look it up here real quick.
It's
You have a
online.
list? Okay, so there are 2 women, 3 men, is that what I'm getting? Is it 7? Is it 7 on the board?
5.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, yeah, 5, so 2
Yeah.
women, 3, I can't add, okay.
Yeah. And then Catherine Werner kind of serves as
And that's your board,
yeah.
not the board that oversees you?
No, that's
That's
the
the-
board that's the board that oversees.
I thought there was 2
Appointed by the
different
mayor
boards.
And approved by the board of aldermen.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a no-no, Mr. Watson. I mean, whatever your name is, Jeff. So I thought that was understood. I thought I understood you to say that there was a board that oversees your board.
Well, okay, so what you have here in the city of St. Louis is a Set the Pace program that has a board connected with it. And that board put out an RFP for a administrator to provide.
And that board being who, SLDC?
No, the Set the Pace St. Louis
Sir, you need
board.
to have a seat.
And that is the board that took in the RFP responses and selected an administrator and is overseeing the program.
And who is Set the Pace? Who's
Set-
that board?
So that is the board we just talked about.
Just talked about.
Right.
So they
That
took
is
they didn't respond to the RFP,
That is a city of St. Louis.
right. So that's,
Board.
okay, right.
And it said, several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago perhaps, the city passed an ordinance.
Right, I
that
remember
set
I was
up-
on this, right.
Set up the PACE program for the city. It included a appointment of a board by the mayor with the consent of the Board of Aldermen.
Right,
That board was put in place.
right.
Has gone through a couple of RFP processes since then. Initially did commercial, just
But I'm
commercial.
not hearing two boards, I'm hearing that.
There's one
really-
board for the city, right?
Right,
There's
it's just
board
one,
for the city.
there's not two boards, there's not an oversight,
No,
and that's what
think-
I thought I heard
yeah,
you
They
say.
were talking about an advisory board and a nominating board and maybe a full board. I think that may be
Okay.
where that issue came.
Right, okay, but you got the RFP, and it is your contention that your RFP limits that to just yourself?
Well-
Your company or the people that you
Well,
represent?
certainly, there've been investments made based on that contract and based on that RFP process. And, I mean, look, we're not here to sort of threaten legal stuff, but certainly they've made investments based on that contract.
That's
and-
different, I'm asking you,
sure.
is your contention that limits it only solely to the company that you represent?
Well, the RFP did limit it to these companies, yes.
It said, and that's why I wanna see the
I
RFP.
mean, a team of companies was selected through that RFP process.
Mhm.
By the way, these guys bid on that and they lost the bid.
I understand
Yeah,
what you're
which-
saying,
Right, so that is the contract that's in place at the city level.
and I wanna see the
Sure.
RFP. The next thing is that, the Alderman from the 17th asked about, could you explain why there have been no residential loans? I didn't really hear a explanation that I was comfortable with, I heard.
Well, the program just rolled out, and the program materials were approved by the board in their last meeting on June 12th. So the program has just only been active for the past several weeks.
Okay, but
And-
this was okay over, so when we originally okayed this, was it for residential and commercial, and you just decided to start doing?
Alderwoman Tyus, can he come to the hot seat so we can?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Sure,
And by the way, just clarification, it's Emily Andrews with USGC. We've been running a commercial program for the city since 2013.
Okay,
So we're strictly just commercial, and all the efforts for the past year have been in vetting and developing a residential program. And that's what we were working with a company called Y-Green.
and the reason why you were vetting it is because you had not done a residential program before.
No, we initially designed we contemplated a residential program with the design of the program Set the Pace. But because of regulatory issues, that process was halted, and we didn't revisit the residential program until there was this RFP process.
And this latest RFP was the first one to include a request for a bid on the residential component as well.
So, hold on, Alderwoman Tyus. The RFP that you bidded on was based on commercial only?
No, the original one back a few years ago was just commercial, but the one that was awarded last summer, probably 11 months ago, I think
Yeah.
July, I think is when it was awarded. I could get that wrong, but I think it's July. For the first time, said, let's do residential and commercial, and so
And
that's,
you won that also?
right.
Yes. Energy Equity Funding won the original RFP that was back in 2013. They went through a second RFP process to include the residential component. So, and we actually looked at a number of different organizations to partner with. And one of the things that we really looked at was the consumer protection components and whether or not they operated in multiple jurisdictions, multiple states. And we partnered with Y-Green and Rockwood because they brought particular expertise with regards to the securitization side of things. So Y-Green went through a incredibly rigorous process of vetting the program, looking at the Missouri market, considering the consumer protections that work best and the underwriting criteria that work best with this market. And so they've taken an extremely conservative and cautious approach with regards to rolling this out. That's why it's taken us this long. So, I mean, whereas most that's been operating for a residential component for the past 9 months or so, I believe Mr. Meslowski said, we took our time and really vetted the program, and we've been working really closely with the collector and assessor's office to make sure that as these loans start to come in, that it's not going to cause problems with the city systems. There's a lot of work that goes on into getting that aspect of the process so it's running smoothly. So we don't want to create any headaches for the collector's office or the assessor's office, and of course we don't want to create any headaches for any
The
consumers.
commercial RFP was what year?
The commercial RFP, the original commercial RFP was 2013.
And then the residential was when?
That was last August.
And so Alderwoman Tyus asked you, how much work have you done in this program even with the commercial RFP?
We've done.
We need to get something on that to show how much you've done in that amount of years. And what?
We've done a number of commercial projects in the city. Some of them were smaller early on. We partnered with PNC when the program initially launched. The market for PACE, I think everybody will say, has been evolving rapidly, and it's been developing rapidly, and we've seen some really great strides, in part because of the work that companies like Renovate and White Green have been doing in California and some other areas in the country. There are a number of capital sources that are now available that have only been available for the past like 2 years or so that have come on the marketplace, and since then we've seen a dramatic uptick in interest with regards to the commercial. So we did a really great project with the Missouri Athletic Club. That was about $2.4 million, and we've done a couple of rehab projects that closed last year. We took a pause as we were developing the residential portion, in which case, and there's certainly some pent-up demand on the commercial side that we're working through. We have got a number of, I'm sure Kurt is with Rockwood. He could probably speak a little bit more to some of the pending projects that they're trying to get closed right now.
A project of this magnitude and the type of program it is, and it's supposed to be helping the people in this city and this region, look like as slow as it's moving, that maybe Alderwoman Tyus, we could create another RFP to protect and involve others to move this program a little faster than what it's moving.
Well, it's moving pretty fast now. I mean, just in the past few weeks, we've had dozens of applications on the residential side, and they're working through millions and millions of dollars in commercial projects right now.
What's wrong with having someone else on this besides you guys? What are you so adamant about?
Well, to Brad's point, I think it's more a matter of how they get there as opposed to having somebody else there. We have a number of different, very specific requirements through our scope of services with the Clean Energy Development Board of St. Louis. For instance, we just met with MOCAN. We have a whole minority and women-owned business outreach program. With Yafet. And so, and really, some of these issues are policy-driven with regards to what's specific to the market, and that's why we answer to the board, and we take input from them along the way. So we have scope of work that we have to work towards, but we also take input from them with regards to what they want to see us do out in the marketplace.
Alderman Rhodey.
You just took my other stuff.
I'm sorry. I saw Joe looking at me.
Okay, I was in the middle, you took over
Go
mine.
ahead, Sharon. Go ahead.
Okay, so,
Alderman
thank you very much, I appreciate
I'm
it.
sorry.
Okay, I know, I was
cut
asking
you
such
off
good
last
questions,
week.
it took my questions. That's all right. So I wanna know who all these other people that are sitting around the table, like, what is Mr. Hudson to your organization? Not Hudson,
Brown.
Mr. Brown.
I'm a consultant with White Green.
Okay, you're a consultant.
He's He's helped in particular with regards to putting in place this actually very structured outreach program in which we're going to do a number of training sessions with minority contractors, and we're also going to be doing an apprenticeship program.
Okay, is anybody else over there working with you?
I work with Rockwood. My
Okay.
name's Kurt Whitmauer. I work on compliance and structuring and a number of programmatic issues.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Khadijah, Fortune Mary. I work a lot with Kurt and Rockwood, assisting with case issues and research as a project manager.
And you not, okay. So this is your team over here, and Mr. Rainford, he's with you?
I'm a registered lobbyist.
With them? Okay. And so, I'm gonna just say this, I don't find it surprising that after you got your first RFP, that you would get the second RFP. That doesn't sway me, because of course you would, and you have Otis Williams on in the cities, and so of course they would keep that. And of course they would not want to have competition, okay, so I understand that. That does not sway me. I do hear what you're saying about the startup. I told you this before, and I'll say it again. My husband's been doing green energy for 20 years. He goes out and does that. He purposely does not do in this city, because I don't want to be any place near the city, so he works in other states. And so this just to me is, so I've gone back to talk to him, because I've tried to understand extraordinary amount of time that is taken for you to do this, okay? And so let me ask you again, because maybe I didn't understand it. You have not done any residential properties before.
We have a pipeline of probably 30 to 50.
But the answer is no, I have not, right? And then no,
I don't know if construction's been completed on any of the
Okay.
projects, but there's been a number of projects.
I know you were
approvals.
putting it in the pipeline. You've been putting it in the pipeline, and I understood that you just got this in 2016 for residential, because originally you were for commercial. I'm just trying to, okay. And so since you set up, all of a sudden you felt like the commercial was going okay, and you said you had done a number of them. You felt like you were ready to do residential. Is that correct? And that you could do that. And that was a need in the city. Is that what happened?
That was actually driven by the RFP process with the board, and that's when we partnered with White Green.
Okay.
There's a huge amount of investment that goes into developing the portal, as Mr. Meslowski described. I mean, it's a whole technology platform, but more importantly, you have to create the ability to finance these projects, which means that you have to have a source of funds that's willing to fund these projects.
I understand.
And so the level of vetting that has to take place with the board and the city. It has to take place with internal counsel and with external counsel with regards to how
And who picked your board?
Who picked our board? The mayor did.
With the advice and consent of the Board of Aldermen.
And that board was picked when?
It was first assembled in, I'm pretty sure it's 2013.
And it's remained pretty much the same since then?
There's been some changes up to the board. I know that that they've tried to keep a good representation, a balance of both industry people as well as community interests.
Who's the community interest? Okay, because I'm looking at Ameren, Laclede, Otis. Who's Emily? Who's the community interest person?
I would say Emily and Shelby mostly.
Okay, and so when the board members were left and another one came on board, that was also through the mayor and with advice and consent of the board? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Through a replacement? I have no further questions.
Alderman Vaccaro.
I do have a couple, just because what everything's asked me. First, I don't remember it coming to the board for our advice, but beyond that, I'm being told that Rockwood never had gone through any RFP, that technically it's another company and you're subbing through that company. So,
yeah.
so did Rockwood go through the RFP, or did somebody else, and then they just using you guys
Well,
as a sub?
there was a team that's responded to the RFP, Tom, jump in here, but EEF was the lead
Right, so
contractor.
but they're the ones that
So-
responded to the RFP.
Yeah,
But-
Cherokee Funding responded to the RFP, sorry, Ray.
Right, but the other thing I'd say is that that team has had to enter into subcontracts that are board approved, and many of the terms pass down to these subcontractors.
But the actual RFP group isn't doing them, they are subbing with, they're saying, well, we kind of recommend this group or that group, and that board's saying,
Well,
okay,
what I'm
fine.
saying is, what I would say is that these, essentially three entities, EEF, Rockwood, and Y-Green, responded to the RFP, okay?
No, but-
EEF was the lead respondent, but as part of implementing that RFP, each of those entities has entered into contracts with the board, either with the board or with board approval.
But who actually, if there wasn't all three that answered, I'm just going by what, because everybody's arguing and everything, but Rockwood never entered into the RFP. They're a sub of.
If you look at the RFP response, you will see Rockwood in that response.
Yeah, the way our RFP response was structured is that our Energy Equity Funding responded, and then we had appendices that included individual proposals from both Y-Green and Rockwood.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that, because again, I'm being told that Rockwood is a sub of the, and not even the.
Yeah, contractually, the way it was structured was that Energy Equity Funding has the contract with the city.
Okay,
And-
so not
And
Rockwood.
each, and
We
in our
can get it
contract.
with the RFP, we can get the responses.
Well, but see, but I guess what I'm being told, and I'm just trying to
No, we can get the
clarify.
responses, we can get the RFP and a copy
So-
of the responses, so we can read it for ourselves.
But what he's saying is that was what is
EEF?
EEF is the one who has the RFP, and they're the ones that are responsible to the city, not Rockwood or
Well,
anybody else.
Rockwood has entered into a contract that the board has had to approve. And it also has obligations to the city as well. I mean, direct, like indemnifications and
But
those sorts of
when we
things.
look at the RFP, because I kind of want to look at.
Yeah, there are two stipulations.
It's
Sorry.
gonna be EEF. I'm just going, I mean, because again, everybody tell me this and other guys this.
Yeah.
But I'm anxious to find out
With the
myself.
RFP, we won't-
But that was my only question is,
Yeah.
in my
And I will tell you,
understanding.
that the board meetings, that whole administrative team
Responded to the
reports
original
together
one
to the
they
board.
said in,
I mean,
2013.
it is an administrative team
2016.
report, and all those three entities are part of those obligations to the board.
And the second RFP went out, so you're saying there was a second one, or it was just one?
Yeah,
No, there
they
are
had
two.
There's two.
RFPs.
One, the original one that was
13.
signed off
Who
on.
sponsored the, I mean, Joe sponsored, we know that Joe
But
Alderman
once
Rhodey
he
sponsored the
set up the
one.
thing, you don't have to do it again, you just do RFPs after that, don't you? You didn't have to come back to the board anymore.
And once the program is established
It's all
and the
done
board is
administratively.
appointed.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's what, I didn't have an understanding.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a couple thoughts. One was, I'm in the unusual position of, I think, agreeing, although I don't think she's quite come out and said this yet, with the Alderwoman from the first, in that I think it's probably behooves everyone to take a look either at the RFP or probably the contract that we have, and see if it provides for exclusivity or not. And my preferred way of admitting someone is to have our board admit a new lender in the city of St. Louis, and that way we would at least have some sort of, I think, an element of control. The more I hear about some of the requirements that are being placed on them, which I think many of us on the board would feel are appropriate, such things as, minority contracting outreach and those types of requirements are something that I think a local board could control, and I'm not sure that a board from out of state could control. The other, just as a, I come to acquaintance in the last few weeks with somebody who actually used to work in the, I don't know if it's the treasurer of Orange County or the comptroller of Orange County, but it would be the counterpart of our comptroller, and was very involved in the rollout of this in the LA area. And, it might behoove us to, get some of his thoughts on some of the experiences that he had when he was working there, because they did go through the rollout, and I guess it's been a few years ago that happened, so several years ago.
Okay. Is that, did you say EDF or PDF?
EEF,
EDF, what's that stand for?
Energy Equity Funding.
And they won the RFP to bid, right?
Yep.
And then Rockwood sub from them?
Rockwood's has subcontract with us as well as White Green.
So who represents EDF now?
I do.
You do. And what's your position with that?
President, COO, member.
So you want to take another, put another RFP out for Hero?
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like we just got through the RFP process. It hasn't even been a year yet, and we're trying to get this program to get its legs under it. You know, I mean, we appreciate the positions that everybody's taken with regards to this, but you know, we do also feel like that we are beholden to certain obligations with regards to the board.
So did EDF win the second RFP?
Yep. I mean, with significant input, obviously, from Rockwood and White Green.
Well, Alderman Vaccaro, you have the last word. Here's what I want to do. John, we didn't get a chance to ask you any questions. Anybody have any questions for John? Alderwoman Tires.
I'm scared to ask any, because then you'll cut me off.
No,
No, I'm just joking, I'm fine.
Alderwoman Ingracia?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro.
I'm just gonna close in saying what we all agreed on a week ago. I'm gonna send this up to the city attorney, have him put whatever is fair and equitable in place, and I'm gonna wait for their opinion, and then revisit this in September with what changes that need to be made. And they may even have recommendations that we need to come back to if we could change them on the existing program. But I do wanna get, because I agree everybody's fighting for who you represent, and you get paid to fight for who you represent, and you should do all your due diligence. I agree with that. I represent the people in my neighborhood and the people throughout the city, and I've researched both groups, and there's, you know, lawsuits against everybody on this stuff, because some say it's predatory, some say it's not, some say it's the banks trying to keep out competition. I don't really know, but in my heart, all I want to do is the right thing. I want to see competition or have it go away altogether. But, you know, I want to do what's right for the city of St. Louis, so that when I go out in public, I can say, gee, you know what, I was a sponsor of this bill that did this. And I don't want to say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I was the sponsor of the guy that did this. So I'm going to take, you know, what the city attorney says and have them say what's fair and unfair and what needs to be put into each one. And then it's going to be up to basically since we're going off of your bill and I'm just trying to get equal to your bill, it's going to be up to Dave, your group, to say, gee, you know what, okay, we agree that that's fair and equal. And if the city attorney looks at yours and comes back and says, this is the changes they need to make, and they make them, that's what I'm gonna accept, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all your.
There won't be 2 more meetings on this issue. And the last one, if there are 2, the last one will be in September. So we need to get it together. And I want to make sure that, Madam Clerk, that what we requested, what Alderwoman Tyers asked for, that we get that information, that we try to work together. And Alderman Vaccaro, I appreciate you sending that to the.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No problem. We'll wait on you, and we'll wait to hear back from the sponsor. And this meeting is adjourned. And I want to say one other thing. Do not lobby me before 10 and after 4 o'clock.